Shut up and sit down.
Hey everyone, this is Alexis from Financial Phoenix, and I'm here today to open up to you about something that's kind of difficult to talk about, but it's absolutely necessary. Last week, our family applied for food stamps, and that's not a sentence I ever thought I would say. That's kind of a new feeling, and it's taken me a little bit to sit with that and to kind of learn, to deal with that reality because it's a tough thing. There are a lot of connotations that come with that, and uh, you know, if you've never been in that position before, if you didn't grow up, having to experience that, then that's a tough thing to kind of go through. So, first of all, we're okay, family and friends, we're fine. David and I both have leads on jobs. David's actually gotten two jobs. I might have mentioned that on social media that he has been offered two different jobs, which he will be taking. So we're thinking that this is just a temporary thing. No worries. But that's what I want to talk about today is all that comes with food stamps and everything like that. So first, before we get into it, can you please like and subscribe to our videos? We really appreciate it. Subscribing keeps you up to date on all the stuff that we're doing with resale and couponing and everything. And sharing these videos also helps us out a lot too. So we would really appreciate that. So we're going to try and keep this quick just to get into it a little bit. Some of the connotations that come with food stamps is that one, we're homeless or going to be homeless, which is not the case. We are very happy at home. Our bills are getting paid. It's been really tight, for since David lost his job and since we've started our resale business, things have been really tight. It was paycheck to paycheck for a while, and then the paycheck stopped coming, and then there's been scrambling and moving of monies and asking friends and family for help, and it's been a challenge, but we feel like we now see the light at the end of the tunnel, that we're getting on the other side of that, but it takes some work. So we are not homeless. We're not going to be homeless. Our kids are not starving, which is another thing. People think that when you're applying for food stamps, you're at your most desperate, and you are, but that doesn't mean that there are other things in our life that aren't getting taken care of. We would do everything in the world to make sure that our kids were okay before ourselves and anything else. So, yeah, so our kids are fine, our house is fine. The other connotation is getting food stamps as a fat person. That's something that I was kind of scared to, going to sit in the office and waiting till they call your name and having people sitting there judging you about, does she really need this? Do they really need this? They're overweight. How much can they be really hurting for money if they're going in there, and needing food? Looks like they've eaten pretty well. So that's one that I had some major anxiety about too. So the connotations are kind of why this is hard to talk about with friends and family. It's not something that you want to bring up at dinner. It's not something that you want to, hey, we applied for food stamps last week. There's a lot of shame attached to it, just like there's a lot of a shame with being poor. And I'm not really sure why that is. I think it's got to do with politics and how we're made to feel like being poor or having money problems or financial issues is always your fault. There's always something you could have done better to fix that. And so, you know, that's something that's just a stigma that we need to try and get away from. You don't know everybody's story. I don't know everybody's story. And, we're trying to open up about ours, but nobody knows ours. So it's just something that we need to start letting go of this stigma that there's something that people could do to avoid what situation that they're in. Maybe there is, maybe there's not, but you don't know, and that's the point. So that's what makes it really difficult to talk about. And with that, especially if you're proud people, which we are, unfortunately, um, you worry that your friends and family are going to pity you and going to offer you money. And, I worry about that a lot. We have some very, very kind and generous friends, you know who you are. And they would give us the shirt off their back, in a heartbeat if they knew that we were in any kind of financial trouble. And that's not what we want. We're not interested in, making a public campaign to ask for donations. We're not interested, which is not a bad thing if that's the situation you find yourself in. That's just not what we want to do. We don't want to burden our friends with that kind of ask. So making that hard to talk about because you don't want your friends to offer you money or to offer to help, and that just makes it difficult as well. Well meaning, of course, but then you can't share your experience because you're worried about making them feel like they have to help you. um, so because we don't talk about this thing, because we don't talk about food stamps, and we're not open about this level of financial difficulty, uh, you probably know someone who is on food stamps or has been on food stamps in the past during the time that you've known them, and you might not have known about it. Um, it's not a thing that you want to share with people, and I think there's the connotation that if you're on food stamps, then like I said, you must be homeless, or you must be living in a shelter, or you must be living in the worst part of town, or have no money for anything in your life, and that's not the case. Um, you know, Middle class people in your neighborhood, people in your backyard need food stamps to get by, uh, month to month, to bridge gaps when somebody loses a job, when there's been an illness, when there's been a death unexpectedly. It just depends. And there's nothing wrong with using them when you need them. That's what they're there for. They're your resource, And I understand that talking about food stamps and using them and the experience of using them on a channel where we're supposed to be helping people financially is kind of weird. But at the same time, improving your station financially means using all of your resources. It means doing things that are uncomfortable. It means doing things that are difficult and hard emotionally. um, that's all of this business. That's Financial Phoenix in a nutshell, is learning to get comfortable with doing things that are going to make you uncomfortable. That's, couponing at the checkout when the cashier is looking at you when you have 40 coupons with you and there's a line stacking up behind you. That's reselling and asking for a price when people think you're insane, or, explaining to your friends and family that reselling is a legitimate business when it kind of just looks like you're not doing anything. It means applying for food stamps and dealing with stigmas and dealing openly with things that your friends might say, and opening up to try and help out, destigmatize that situation. So uh, Financial Phoenix and just improving your life in general is about the idea that you can get where you want to be, but it's going to take a level of discomfort that maybe you're not used to. So that's why we want to be as open as possible about our situation. You're on this journey with us. This is what we're going through. This is what we're dealing with. And I'm sure there are many of you that are dealing with the same thing. So, or somebody who's dealing with the same thing. So that's why it's hard to talk about. Part of the reason why it's easy for politicians and, political uh, situations, part of the reason why it's easy to talk about defunding these programs, to use these programs like bargaining chips, is because many of these most of these politicians have never experienced the need for food stamps or Medicaid or whatever kind of benefits exist. Many of us have never had this experience. I had never had this experience growing up. My parents never had the need for food stamps, so I had no idea what the situation was like. So it's easy to judge when you've never had to deal with it, and it's easy to judge as a society and to get to the point where, we don't think these are necessary, that everyone should be able to stand on their own 2 feet. So starting the breakdown of that stigma is going to start with people talking openly about what food stamps and what benefits are and how they truly benefit uh, families that use them. So, just quickly, I want to talk about our experience um, so far with this process. We applied, I believe it was the end of 2 weeks ago, so like 2 Fridays ago. Um, we applied, we filled out an application online. It was a little confusing, mostly due to the fact that David and his ex wife share custody of the children, so it was a little confusing if we should include the children or just one of them, or how they do it on the taxes. So that was kind of tricky to fill out. And then we received early the following week, Monday or Tuesday, and a letter in the mail. They do a lot of their correspondence by mail, uh, stating that we would have a phone interview in a few days, where they would call or we were supposed to call and talk to them about our situation. So we called, and it was a long phone call. It was probably an hour and a half, but um, the lady on the other end, I was very nervous about, whether or not we were going to be judged, or if we were going to feel like ashamed of having to ask. Or the lady was super nice. Lady, if you're watching, I'm sure you're not. I don't know your name, but she was so excellent, so wonderful. Cannot, if you're nervous about applying, or if you've thought, hey, that could really help me out, but I just don't, I don't want to deal with that process. She made it very simple. She was very accommodating when I didn't have the boys' social security numbers right away, and very just wanted to get us whatever we need. And that was an awesome experience. And that's a really hard job that I can't imagine being in. So we really appreciated that. So it was about an hour and a half on the phone. Um, since neither of us are working currently, we did not have to provide proof of income or something like that, because we can't. I believe if you're working, you would need to provide some sort of paycheck stub or something. You'll have to check, and obviously it varies state to state. We're in Ohio, so I believe you need to provide some sort of proof of income or something like that. I know that we still have to send in some paperwork about how much our mortgage is, proof of that, and how much our association fees are living here in the Valley. So that's something that we have to do by mail. But honestly, I mean, we didn't have to go into an office yet. That still could be an option, but it seems like we were able to do this all by phone. We have a couple of pieces of paperwork, right? Understandable asks that we have to fill out. But that's really it. And we applied for food stamps and for Medicaid, since neither of us have health insurance right now. The boys have health insurance through their mom. So we applied for that, and she asked if we would need Medicaid retroactive for when David left his job, which I didn't even know was an option, so that's great. Because we're both not working right now, she also was able to put us in touch with emergency benefits. So we're hoping to get those in the mail today. So we're talking about 2 Fridays ago. We had 1 week, we had the phone interview, and then today is Monday. And we're supposed to, I think, either today or tomorrow, get our card, which has the money amounts on it for shopping, grocery shopping, stuff to get us by. And this is just going to be such a tremendous help. It is going to take a huge expense off of our plate, um, just as part of our monthly budget, and that's more money that we can use toward our bills. So it's not just about I can't afford to feed myself, I can't afford to feed my kids. It's about if I have the groceries taken care of, I can pay the light bill. So it's a trade off like that. So anyway, yeah, the lady was very nice. She did not make us feel guilty or ashamed. Um, yeah, our experience was largely a positive one. I'm sure, I might do a follow up video if you think that would be helpful about my first time using the card, the food stamp card, at I don't even know where they take it. I have to research that. Walmart maybe. So I'll just let you know how that experience goes as somebody who um, has not done that before and has a little bit of anxiety about it, and then we can talk about that. Um, yeah. So the takeaway here is use them if you need them. They're there for you. They're your resource. You pay taxes, so you've paid for this program. People have paid for this program. It's there to help you. It's there to bridge the gap when something happens. It's there to make sure you're able to pay the rest of your bills and still keep food in your mouth and your kid's mouth. So it's really there for you, and you need to take advantage of it. Now, that's not to say that you should abuse it. That's not to say that you should be disingenuous or dishonest about your paperwork, and try to keep that going as long as you can. There's a stigma, I think, too, about middle class people, or about that maybe we don't have a right to use it. Maybe we are not poor enough to use it, which I think is ridiculous. It's crazy to me that anyone would think that you would go get these benefits, get the card, go to the store, use it in front of other people, and deal with the looks and the judgments and sometimes the open comments about it when you don't really need it. That's not the case. Nobody chooses to need these cards, to need these benefits. So that's crazy to me. Don't feel ashamed. The more we talk about it, the more we're open with our friends and family, the more people start to see, hey, I know somebody who needs these benefits, the more we can start to change this stigma that, the negative connotations that come with that. So just be open with people, and see what happens. You might be surprised. And lastly, and this should be a really obvious one, don't judge or stigmatize people who need these benefits. I've been guilty of it in the past. I'm sure I have looked at somebody's cart and saw them using food stamps and thought, do they really need all that? Or are they getting the best items for, you have no idea what anybody else's story is. I have no idea what anybody else's story is. Just realize that, if somebody is using food stamps or somebody is using some kind of benefit, they don't want to be. They don't want to be doing that. They don't want to be in the situation where they need that. Let me know in the comments if you've used food stamps or some kind of benefit and what your experience has been. Let me know if a live video with some questions would help, or let me know if you would like to just have an update video once we've tried using them in store, just to see how it goes. I want to do content that's going to benefit you, so let me know if any of those would be a good option for you. So thank you for watching. Be on the lookout for some more videos this week. We'll definitely have a Dollar General couponing video coming up later this week, so be on the lookout for that. And remember, like a phoenix, we are rising.
Shut up and sit down.